Welcome, welcome everybody. It's Dr. Rowe, the Starch Lady, and we have a special guest today. As you can see, this is Rachel Echols. She's from Ohio, literally about 23 minutes from one of our dear clients and friends, Diane, that lives up there as well. So we are totally going to meet this summer on our coast to coast, north to south trip that we do every year, about 20,000 miles on that trip alone. So pretty excited. So Rachel caught my attention, one, because I share a term of endearment. Her name, Rachel, is my term of endearment. My husband has called me Rachel since the day he met me. So if anybody's in the biblical Genesis and you hear the Jacob and Rachel love story, he was married to the Leah before he found his Rachel. So it's been kind of a fun little term of endearment, but that caught my attention when she popped up on the screen with a weight loss story. And she showed a picture of her, and we're going to look at some of her before and after pictures, but you're going to be astounded at the transformation that she's made. How much weight have you lost so far, Rachel?
90 pounds.
90 pounds.
Yeah.
That is huge. That is humongous fungus, right?
Yeah, I've been maintaining for about a year, so I think I'm pretty stable.
Yeah, so you've been maintaining for a year now?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Well, you look absolutely fantastic. You look literally decades younger than you did before. When everybody sees your picture, they're going to go, what? So,
yeah. People tell me I'm reverse aging or I've lost 20 years. I hear that all the time.
Yes, 20 years was kind of what was in my head. Definitely. I have no idea how old you are, but you are 20 years younger than whatever it was before.
I don't mind sharing my age. I'm 48, but I'll be 49 next month. So.
Oh, that's amazing. So yeah, you do not look like you're in your 40s at all. So that's wonderful. So when you start looking younger than your kids, you know you've arrived, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I want to jump into, first of all, let's go ahead and show the before and after pictures, because when we do that, people can kind of get an understanding and an idea of what you've been through. And then we'll go from there as with some of the questions we talked about yesterday that I sent you and things. So let me go ahead and do a screen share. We're going to optimize the sound and the video clip so that when we play this back during our luncheon, we will be able to see what's going on here. All right, so this is one of the first pictures she sent me here of her before and after pictures. Absolutely transformative, the difference here.
Yeah, that was really where I was the heaviest. I think that's some of the other pictures might have been, intermediate or whatever, but that was pretty much my heaviest.
Yeah. And notice that the glasses are bigger than your face now.
Yeah, that's not the same pair of glasses. The ones on the left are a little more narrow, but
there you go. But still, just wearing glasses that they set for your ears, these, even if the frame was a little bit smaller, the difference that would make. So absolutely phenomenal. So let me see if I can go the other direction or if it's going to make me go. Let's see if it'll look this way. We're going to talk a little bit about your hobby of tagging and releasing Monarch Butterflies here in a little bit, but this is an older picture and we're going to look at a video. I think we can try to find it if we can, versus now. The butterfly has a little bit more space too. So that's kind of fun. So
yeah, that second picture was taken, I think last summer.
Nice.
Not 2021, but 2020. So when I just barely about reached my goal weight, close to my goal weight.
Nice, nice. Very nice. Oops, and I lost it already. Let's go back up here. We're going to talk about a magazine she's in, all kinds of stuff today. Before and after pictures. Wonderful, wonderful. Go the other direction. It's going to go this direction, looks like. This one here, I think, is the one that caught my attention first. I can't remember what the post was about at the time, but I remember thinking, who's that? Is that the same person? So remarkable. And we're going to talk about how, oh my goodness, if I just keep bopping out of here, that will be just the irritant of the day. Here's another one. All right. And then we're going to talk about this incredible 10-minute plank you do, girlfriend. So
I've only done that a couple of times just because it's not very fun.
I bet it's not. But the fact that you have done it, that blows my mind. I mean, I'm lucky if I can stay up there for a minute. So I know it's a very full body workout. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the show as well. Talk about you being on the front cover of the magazine here, having lost 90 pounds, articles that you've written for this, as well as other really amazing, you know, successes that you've accomplished and things that you've realized. So this looks like a roaring 20s. Is this you in a roaring 20s party?
It was Halloween. Yeah. Now that I'm thinner, I can actually have a little fun with Halloween. So I ordered the, you know, the roaring 20s outfit off of Amazon.
Nice.
With the headband and the necklace and the gloves and everything. And yeah, that was pretty fun.
That is fun. I wanted to have a roaring 20s party as soon as 2020 hit. And I was going to do it in April. And we all know what happened in March, and the world stopped where it stood. So, okay, so let's go back to you for a moment. I want to hear a little bit more about you. I know you're a pharmacist, and the commonality that we share there is my clinic is inside of a pharmacy, and I'm in Alamo Ranch Pharmacy and Wellness in the Alamo Ranch district of San Antonio, Texas. And Dr. Eugenia is a compounding pharmacist, and myself, I'm a natural health practitioner, a doctor of naturopathy, and we complement each other very, very well because if I need something medical, I do have a medical director that I can go to that can get a prescription if a client needs it. But most, I would say 99.9% of the time, we are able to fix whatever the problem is with proper hydration and dietary changes. And eating this whole food, plant-based way of eating has made it incredible. You know, I'll hear somebody out there in the lobby talking to the pharmacist and saying, I really don't want to get on this medication because I know once I get on it, I can't really get off of it. And she goes, Dr. Rose around the corner here, go into her clinic and she'll talk to you about that. And so we work very, very well together. We've become really good friends. She called me her partner in crime the other day. It was pretty cute. So, I love the fact that you're able to recognize that it's not just a pill that can fix this problem. And that's kind of how we've been challenged, I guess, over the years to believe in a process that is medical related or prescription related. And once we realize that a pill is not going to fix the issue. And what started this for me was when I had a hysterectomy with it that went completely south after, oh my goodness, I was bedridden for 4 months, on a womb vac for 4 months.
Wow.
Had physical therapy come into my house 3 days a week and teach me how to walk again. They'd caused some severe nerve damage when they did the surgery, and I thought I was going to die. And so, newsflash, painkillers don't make you well. Okay. So
problems too.
Oh my goodness. I cannot even begin to tell you the list of problems that created. And so I had to figure out a way how to dig myself out of that grave myself. And the internet, for what it's worth, for good or evil, I was able to tap into some wonderful information, forks over knives, you know, the cowspiracy, things like that. The videos that are What the Health, I love that one. What's that new one that they've got out with the athletes? I'm going to blank on that. Game Changers, yes. So all of these videos I was able to watch, and it was like light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. And it's like, but wait a minute, how can you survive without eating meat? Because we have been brainwashed to think that we have to have meat 4 times a day, twice for breakfast, bacon and eggs, you know what I mean? Turkey sandwich for lunch and some sort of a meat and side for dinner. And when did that happen? When did it start controlling our lives other than through marketing? That's the only thing I can think of. And the dairy and the cheese on everything, in everything. So tell me a little bit about you. What started this? How did this happen? How did you wake up one day and go, hey, I don't want to eat meat, dairy, or oil ever again? How did that happen?
Well, I never thought I would be here. Never. I mean, I'd heard of vegans and I just thought that they were kind of weird and why would you never want it? I mean, even you know, some years ago, one of my sisters had switched to an alternative milk and I didn't understand why she would want to do that. But anyway, just to kind of start at the beginning, I was raised in a middle-class family and we just ate the standard American diet. But thinking back on it, I realized that the way we ate was highly influenced by the way my parents were raised. My dad was raised on a farm. My mother was very, very poor growing up, and she was the oldest of 8 children, and she saw her mother go hungry to feed the rest of the kids on a frequent basis. And I think once she got married to my dad, and we were not wealthy at all, but he had a good job and he was steady. And I think she maybe went to excesses because of all the things she never had growing up, and she thought she deserved it. And I think that kind of influenced the way we ate. So we had a garden and stuff, but vegetables were always covered in cream and butter and stuff. We had a lot of dessert. But I was always thin growing up. As a matter of fact, I was the youngest of 3 girls, and both of my sisters had some weight problems growing up, but I was always just stick thin. Till I got married and started having kids. And then the weight started to come on. And after my second child, I couldn't really get the weight off. After the first one, I got down close just by kind of watching what I ate and exercising. But after that, it was downhill for me. And I just got heavier and heavier. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. And then I decided to go to pharmacy school when I was 40. And I had tried diets on and off throughout the years, and I could lose weight, but I could never, ever keep it off. And, you know, I think I always had a desire to, you know, be healthy and a good weight. And so I just kept trying, but I wasn't successful. And after you try and fail so many times, you get very frustrated. But anyway, and also I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we have kind of a health code. And members are really good at following parts of this health code. And we're really well known for not drinking alcohol and not smoking and those sort of things. We don't drink coffee or tea or anything like that. That was never a struggle for me. But the do's in that health code about eating, that grains should be the staff of life, and eating meat sparingly and only during certain circumstances, we're not so good at following those. And I always wondered
the cold
why.
in times of famine. It's like I tell people, when have you ever been so cold that you had to go out and get meat off of its hoof? Or when did you survive a famine? I mean, there's a grocery store on every corner. There is something to be eaten. And so none of those apply. I
think, we all gloss over that part, but it had kind of settled in my heart for many years, but I didn't understand why keto was the rage and eating low carb made you lose weight. But we were counseled, and it made sense that eating these foods would be healthy. And yet it seemed that people always talked about how bread would make you gain weight and potatoes would make you gain weight. And I never understood that, but I really had a desire to follow the counsel that our church, that is in that counsel. So after many years of trying to lose weight, and I did a lot of diets that I knew were not right. I knew that God wouldn't approve of me doing that to my body, and I knew they weren't good for my body, and I knew I shouldn't be doing them. Some of them weren't that bad, I guess, but none of them really worked long term. I tried Weight Watchers, Sugar Busters. I tried the HCG diet. At
Oh
one
my.
point on the HCG diet, I lost 58 pounds doing that. And I don't really want to go into the specifics of what you have to do on that diet, but it's not good for you. And a lot of women who have done that diet have had heart problems later as a result of that. And my mother had AFib, my grandmother had AFib, plus heart disease and diabetes. And I just knew it ran in the family. And I knew while I was doing it that I shouldn't be doing it. But I told myself, I'm just going to do this to get down to the weight that I'm supposed to be at, and then I'll stop. Well, the problem is when you stop anything like that, you just gain it back plus. And that's always what happened to me. So I'm 5'5", and I got down to about 152 or so on the HCG diet. That was back in 2010, I believe. And everybody was complimenting me, and I felt great, but I couldn't even hold that weight for 4 weeks. I just couldn't. I was hungry, and you just can't deny the biology. So anyway, I eventually just ran out of steam and decided I couldn't try any more diets, because what's the point of putting all that effort into it if it doesn't stay off, the weight doesn't stay off? And I thought I was doing myself more harm than good. So I honestly prayed about it a lot. And, I kind of made a promise to myself and to God that until I found something that I felt like he would approve of 100%, I wasn't going to try anymore. I was going to accept where I was and let it be until I figured out what the right thing to do was, or something that would be a permanent solution, something that would be good for my body and that he would 100% approve of. And so I gave up, basically. I prayed and was waiting for some answers. And so during that time, I went to pharmacy school. During this time, I was waiting for an answer, and I gained 35 pounds in pharmacy school. I started as a 40-year-old student. I sat in class. I came home and sat to study. I stayed up all hours of the night. I was under extreme pressure and stress. I had a job on top of that I was working 9-hour Saturday shifts, and I couldn't even start my homework for the weekend until Sundays. And I hated to do that Sundays, but anyway, I just was under a lot of stress and pressure. So I graduated from pharmacy school heavier than I'd ever been. And then I had to find a job, and the stress of finding a job and starting a new job and all of that. So I got through all of that. Now, at some point, I think it was in that lapse between graduation and starting my new job, that I went to see a new doctor, because we changed doctor's offices. And, she informed me that I was obese. My BMI was 37.
Was that a shocking thing when they say that out loud? Were you like going, no, I'm not?
I knew.
Hearing those words, though, from a medical professional is a little bit of a slap in the face,
I know. And I knew I needed to do something about it. But again, I was back to that, how can I put all this effort into this? And plus I had the stress of I'm trying to find a job right now. And, and my husband was a little stressed because I had graduated and hadn't found a job yet. And anyway, but she told me something that no doctor has ever told me before. Instead of telling me to eat smaller portions and to exercise and to eat lean meats and lean dairy products like chicken and fish and, low-fat milk, she said, eat less dairy, less eggs, less meat. Try to follow a whole food plant-based diet. And I didn't even know what that was. I had no idea what that was. I just knew no doctor had ever told me that before. She sent me home with some materials to go over, but I really wasn't in the frame of mind to even try to tackle that until I had a job. So a few months down the road, I had my job. I had kind of settled in and gotten over the hardest part of learning my new job, and went back and saw her again. And she, reiterated her advice and told me, she'd give me about 6 months to try to get my cholesterol down, because my cholesterol was 260. And she gave me some more papers and said, watch these movies, read these books. I think that was in October, and I let it slide through the holidays. But as soon as January hit and everybody's talking about New Year's resolutions, I decided this is the moment. So I dug out the papers she gave me and thought, I'm going to look into this. And so I watched Forks Over Knives. I read some books, but really Forks Over Knives is what impressed me. I will say that while I was watching it, I had an epiphany moment that this was it. This was the thing that agreed with the health counsel given by my church, and that I knew was healthy. Everybody knew it was healthy. And also kind of the explanation of why eating potatoes and bread makes you gain weight. It's because of all the stuff we put on top of them, right? The butter and the cheese and, all of that is really the weight gain part of it. And when you eliminate that, you just left with the healthy parts. It just made perfect sense to me. Mm-hmm. And I can't really explain the level of impact that this epiphany had on me. It settled on me like just, a huge realization. And I knew that was my answer. I continued to read and study, but I pretty much that night didn't eat the meat for dinner that we were serving. So it took me, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew it was right. And so I started that night. And it took me about 3 days, I would say, to get over to about 95% whole food plant-based. Like I said, I had no idea what I was doing. I tweaked it from there, and figured out how to get oil out of my diet. I didn't know how to get oil out of my diet. The dairy part was easy. I just kind of switched over to non-dairy milk, almond milk. And I just skipped the meat at dinner and would have the sides. And I made sure and made side dishes that I could leave butter and cheese and stuff off of. So that's, how it started. And then really, I noticed some changes right away that encouraged me to continue. And I already knew I was on the right path before I even started, but the changes were encouraging.
So what was the first change that you noticed? Was it a health issue or what was it?
I would say health issues and weight loss right off the bat. I kind of committed to myself to follow it for 30 days just to see what happened first. And I lost 14 pounds in 30 days.
Eating until you were satisfied, I'm guessing.
As a matter of fact, it was hard enough to make the change. I'm not telling you it was easy. It was very, very difficult. I was a sugar addict. I was an emotional eater. I was an overeater. I was, addicted to cheese and sugar and stuff. It was not easy at all to stay on it for the first few weeks. But what helped me stay on it was to allow myself to eat as much or anything that was compliant. I didn't limit any types of foods or any portions at all. And that is what helped me get through the first couple weeks and to kick those cravings and addictions that I was battling. So, I ate a lot. I really did, but I was heavy. I needed a lot of calories. And, with this food that's, low in calorie density, you can eat a lot more for the same amount of calories. So I just didn't limit myself at all. The whole point was to just stay on it. So I was eating whole grain breads, pasta, lots of potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, oatmeal, just anything I could get and raw fruits and vegetables, anything I could get my hands on. No, ratios or anything. I just staying on it was the task at hand. So.
Yeah, that makes a huge, huge difference. There's a part of the word of wisdom that people miss also, and I can't remember. I need to go back through and find the exact verse, but it talks about gluttony. I think that's somewhere in there. It's talking about the overconsumption. And, we as a church body embrace eating like it's our only way to communicate or show thanks or show service. I mean, it all has to deal with food, and we're putting our best foot forward. Even when we take a casserole to somebody who's in their deathbed, you know, we're taking them over a contributor to the deathbed by taking them, you know, 3 or 4 layers of mac and cheese casserole. I mean, what started that nonsense?
Well, the
And, you
problem
know,
is most people don't know that. I didn't know that, and most people don't know it. It's not just part of our American culture, it's part of our church culture now. And so I totally, you know, I mean, I understand most people don't know better. They really don't.
yeah.
So it's great that this movement is getting the word out to so many people.
Mhm.
And, you
The
know,
movement is huge, and I did not know. I mean, there are so many Facebook groups dedicated to it, YouTube channels dedicated to it.
mhm.
People have turned their entire livelihood into promoting this. And I love Dr. John McDougall's program. I did his 12-day program last January. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, oh my goodness, a colleague of Dr. McDougall's, his reverse and preventative for heart disease based on a whole food plant-based diet. Now, I want to be very specific for those that are tuning in for the first time and they've never seen this talk before. There is a huge difference between whole food plant-based and claiming to be a vegan. And I know Dr. McDougall is adamantly opposed to using the word vegan in any description of what we're eating. He likes to say whole food, plant-based, mostly starches way of eating. And, you know, I'm like you, I had kind of put the cookie cakes and pies and casseroles in the same category as, you know, potatoes, rice, beans, and oats. And they're not even the same beast. We're talking about a whole food that hasn't been processed with latent sugars and salts and things added to it that don't need to be there. And I'm not the one that is opposed to salt because I think we need the electrolytes. In fact, I don't think I know. I don't know if you know, but my clinical specialty is microscopic blood health. I can take a drop of blood out of your fingertip and I can tell you what you've been eating based on the condition of your blood cells and plasma and the crystals and things that can form in there. Dairy crystals are turquoise in color. There is no other food that you can eat that will make a crystal that is colored blue, green, turquoise in your blood, except dairy, which is milk and cheese and anything related to that way. You know, gluten, brown, meat products, black, infection, red. I mean, there's these different colored crystals that I don't want to see any of them in the microscope. But if I do, I can help you to identify what is causing that, or how the cells stick together and form rouleau, as they call it, where they become sticky because cells should have a negative polarity that forces the blood cells to never touch. They should never be touching, and they should be flowing freely like salmon swimming upstream to carry oxygen from head to toe once every 3 minutes. But when they're all stuck together and they form these ropes in the blood and look like worms or, you know, spirals and different things like that, they can't even get into the capillaries. So when, you know, you shake hands with somebody that got cold hands, you know, they're not eating right because the capillaries are in our, you know, cause cold hands, cold fingers, numbness, tingling, because only one red blood cell can get into a capillary at a time. You've got arteries, veins, capillaries. So only one cell can go through it at a time. And when you've got a cluster of this ropey looking stuff, it ain't getting into that capillary. And so it bypasses it and the circulation becomes low. The warmth is not present in the fingertips, the toes, blurred vision. Everybody in my group knows that I used to wear glasses to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night since I was a young girl. And I now have clinically diagnosed, prescription written 20/20 vision, no glasses required. And that occurred when I dropped the oil. So dropping the oil, it took about 6 years, I guess, but my vision is 20/20. And I was able this last year when I turned 60 to get the restriction removed off my driver's license. That is proof right there.
Yeah,
And
cool.
I had 2 exams before that. I thought he was crazy. When he gave me the 3rd one, I asked for the script so that I could go and get my driver's license renewed when I turned 60. and they have to take your picture and stuff all over again. And boy, that was a different photo too. I was excited about that.
Yeah.
But being able to have that restriction taken off, and I can wear, cute little glasses from the gas station or, Walmart or wherever I want to pick up glasses, and have cute design glasses and not have to worry about where's my glasses. Oh my gosh, I can't find the bathroom in the dark, And so huge things like that. But going back to the difference between whole food, plant-based, and vegan, there are so many things that are marked vegan out there in the stores and things like that, but they're made with wheat gluten. They're made with a high soy content, which are also high in fat content. They're not natural foods. They're trying to mimic foods that used to be. And when you start buying that, Dr. McDougall calls it junk food vegan. That causes problems because people get a little confused. But when you take the whole food, the whole plant, the whole potato, and the process, I'm sure you've learned too, the trick of cooking the potatoes and putting them in the fridge where they convert to a resistant starch, where there's a slow release of glycemic index versus the rush. It's more rubbery, kind of like a potato salad type version potato. And it's very slow for the release of energy into the bloodstream. And it also, it has a kind of more of a protein about it, more of a potato protein than it had the day before when it just came right out of the
kind of
boiler.
Some of the stipulations, or conditions that I use when I decide what I'm going to eat or whatever. Obviously I always read labels, but if there's a long list of ingredients or anything I can't pronounce, I know it's not a good choice. As for processing, I kind of consider, if it's something I could make with simple tools in my own kitchen, then I figure it's mildly processed. Like tofu, I could make tofu in my kitchen if I wanted, and soy milk, that sort of thing is kind of the, rules that I follow to determine whether I'm going to eat something or not.
Sure. Yeah, we do a lot of the unsweetened almond milks that come in the shelf stable boxes, great for storage. And the oat milks that come in the boxes like that. I am an absolute fan of pumpkin seed milk because it's kind of like an avocado as far as like a whole food goes, but it's too high in fat content for me to use it to lose weight right at this point. Same with avocados. I can't lose weight if I'm eating avocados. I can't lose weight if I'm doing pumpkin seed milk. So going for the unsweetened almonds and the unsweetened oat milk, things like that. Cinnamon goes a long way for sweetening stuff too, if we need to add a little bit of a sweetener. Surprisingly, cinnamon is really good at that. So
I was going to say, we can talk later if you want about what I had to do to get down to goal.
Please tell me now.
I mentioned, before on the Hcg diet, I got down to about 152 and couldn't hold my weight there for even a month. I lost 50 pounds just kind of eating whatever that was whole food, plant-based, keeping the oils out, and not eating processed food or anything like that. But then I stalled at about 175, I think. And I knew I was still at least 20 pounds overweight. I was kind of hoping, my goal would be 150, even though that is borderline BMI for me. That puts my BMI at like 25.0 or something like that. And I would like to get down lower, but I'd never been able to even maintain at 150. So, I was just thinking if I can get to 150, I'm doing good. So, but anyway, I stalled and I was still overweight and I knew I was, and I stalled for 4 months. I knew it wasn't just a couple of weeks or whatever. I knew I had to tweak something. So I got Dr. McDougall's Maximum Weight Loss book. And by the way, during this time that I had switched, and so I lost 50 pounds in 8 months, just eating whatever. And during that time, I was reading everything I could get my hands on, watching all those videos, all those movies. I read the China study and the starch solution and Dr. Esselstyn's book about prevent and reverse heart disease. I read all of that stuff. So then I stalled and I thought, well, Dr. McDougall knows what he's talking about. He's got this maximum weight loss. So I got the book and had kind of been reading about it. And then I think I was getting McDougall emails. And when the first of the year came by, so I stalled in September. First, I got through the holidays at my weight, just sticking where I was, but I wasn't losing anything. And January came by and I got an email from McDougall about his maximum weight loss program and that you could sign up for free help on his forums. They have a thread for maximum weight loss and they have a moderator there that helps. Basically what you do is they have a Friday virtual weigh-in and everybody goes in and posts on the forum for that month on Fridays and say what your weight was for the day. If you don't want to say your weight, you can just say whether you lost or gained and how much. And then you have to actually report your accountability. You go through all the 10 steps of the maximum weight loss plan and say how you were compliant or not to that this week. And then the moderator responds to every single person. He encourages you, he gives you tips, very kind and helpful. So I started that in January after I'd been plateaued for 4 months and the weight loss started coming off again. The weight started coming off again. And so I followed that for 10 months straight, absolutely as strict as I could be. There were on the weekends, I mean, it's a no flour program except for you can have pasta because when pasta is cooking, it absorbs a lot of water, which actually reduces the calorie density to about the same as beans. So you can have whole grain pasta. I was eating it maybe once or twice a week, but on the weekends, we would sometimes go out for Mexican and I would get oil-free veggie fajitas and I would eat 2 flour tortillas. That was my cheat, basically. My husband loves to eat out, so I just had to learn how to figure, all of this out. But anyway, so I followed that pretty strictly for 10 months straight and 30 more pounds came off. A lot slower than the first 50, but it kept coming off, a pound here, a pound there, and it's just very encouraging. So, and then, since then, I stopped in October of 2020 participating in that. But I've lost a little bit more weight, not a whole lot. And I float around 4 pounds up, 4 pounds down, within a 4-pound range, basically.
Sure.
But it was not easy, I can say, to follow that for 10 months. We haven't talked about my family situation at all, but it was not easy, I can tell you that. And I see so many people online in these groups that say, I'm eating 100% whole food plant-based diet and I can't lose weight, or I stalled or whatever. And the maximum weight loss program from McDougall is my Bible. Honestly, anything weight loss, I compare it to that because I know it works. And I
Do you
know
have
what
those
the rules
10
are.
steps in front of you right now? Could we go through that just as a refresher course for some of these people? Do you remember?
I can pull it up, but some of them are obvious. They're assuming that you've already been following a whole food plant-based diet. Cheese and meat and milk, of course, is off of here we go. Here we are. Okay, so start each meal with soup, salad, or fruit is the first one, which is basically getting you to eat some of the less calorie dense items first, right?
Right.
And then your meal should be a 50-50 plate method, half starches and half non-starches. And that's by visual volume only and minimally processed, of course. Choose fruit for dessert if you need or want dessert. Greatly reduce or eliminate added sugars and salts. If they're troublesome, you can eliminate them. Notice he's not saying that you have to eliminate them. And I love Dr. McDougall for this because he wants you to enjoy your food. He says, try not to cook with sugar and salt, or oil, of course, but you can add them at the table so that you get the most taste for your buck, get the most taste. So that's what I do.
He said during our 12-day program, he says, if you have to put a little brown sugar on your oatmeal to get it in you, please do,
Yeah. And so just don't cook with them. And if you're not cooking with them and you're not eating processed foods, you've already eliminated 95% of what you would be consuming. It's okay to put a little bit on your food. And I sometimes with the whole food plant-based diet, it's very popular right now to go SOS free, sugar, oil, salt. I agree with the oil, get rid of the oil. but I don't believe that you have to be sugar and salt free to be successful on this. And I've
Sure.
never required that of myself. I just
Mhm.
know that if I'm not eating the processed crap and cooking with it, that I'm not really eating any at all. I can add a tiny bit to my food. So
I agree. I agree. What's number 5?
eliminate all animal foods, dairy, meat, eggs, fish, seafood. And then eliminate all higher fat plant foods. Now, this is the one that was hard for me. This is where I needed to tweak to keep losing weight. This is really what made a difference for me. Nuts, seeds, avocados, tofu, soy.
Yeah, I am still having avocado withdrawals, and it's been over a year that I've been on the program, and that was, I called that God's butter. I mean, I ate 2 or 3 of those a day, like with everything, because it was such a perfect food, except
Yeah.
that it is high in saturated fats by a natural, that and coconut. That was a huge
Yeah, he didn't
thing.
list coconut here, but I know from participating in the Maximum Weight Loss Forum for 10 months, I know all the little itty bitties that maybe people don't see when they're reading this list the first time. Coconut and olives are also on the list. And I know people who are eating a whole food plant-based diet love tofu because they feel like it's their meat substitute, but it's about 50%. 40 to 50% fat from of the calories are from fat.
Sure,
You
sure.
cannot be eating that every day and lose weight if you
No.
are, especially if you're a woman or our age, I mean, it's just not easy. So that's really the big tweak.
We eat in a lot of Asian restaurants. We are absolutely obsessed with Thai pho, and things like that. And I really struggle to eliminate the tofu when we go out to that. And that's probably like once a week.
Yeah.
But because of the high fat content of the tofu, when I'd be totally satisfied because I get the vegetable broth, extra vegetable in the pho, and it's a rice noodle, which is just rice and water, period. And sometimes it's mung bean noodles that they use for the glass noodles. And I can be totally satisfied with that, but I do struggle to remember to leave the tofu off. And if I try to push it to the side, I'm too weak. It'll end up in my mouth anyways. But we have to, kind of observe that.
I mean, some of this stuff I've added back in and I'm still maintaining just fine. I just don't eat a whole lot of those sort of things all at once. Like I'll rotate through. I have a little bit of this week, and next week I'll have a little bit of that. I don't eat all that stuff all at once, and I'm just careful. But
is that Maximum Weight Loss Forum still available?
Yep.
Even though he's doing the 12-day programs? Yeah, if you can send that link to me, I'll share it with the group, because I know I did the online program. It was 12 intense days. Like you weigh in and meet with your medical person at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And then the classes one-on-one with Dr. McDougall and his wife started at 8 o'clock. And then you met with your person at 10. And then you had classes, So
this is you're on your own all week, and all it is an accountability reporting and a virtual weigh-in on Fridays. And it's your job to post on Fridays and be accountable, and nobody's forcing you to participate.
Okay.
But if you
please share that with me. Yes.
If you post, they will respond to you, by the end of the next day or whatever, by Saturday.
Is Jeff the moderator?
No, it's I've lost his name. It's someone else. Jeff is one of the moderators, but he's not the main one that takes care of it because he's so busy. He jumps in every once in a while when needed for an opinion.
Well, I'm excited to share that with the group. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll share the link to the Maximum Weight Loss online guidelines and the recipes for maximum weight loss that McDougall has online. And then I'll share the link for this month's Maximum Weight Loss thread, because there's a new thread every month.
Excellent. I also have the app going to my Android store. I was able to download the McDougall recipe app, and it is so cool because if you see something you want to make, you actually can check off the things you don't have, and it creates a shopping list for you. It's brilliant. It was $4.99 of well spent one-time lifetime membership cannot begin to tell you how helpful that is. So
Yeah,
I think we're on number 7 on the 10 things. What's the 7th?
Okay, this might be number 8. I think back, we might have done the choose fruit for dessert might have been a separate number, but anyway, whatever.
Okay.
Eliminate all added oil. Eliminate all higher calorie dense foods, including flour products. So bread, bagels, muffins, crackers, dry cereals, cookies, cakes, puffed cereals, air popped popcorn, and dried fruit. Now people say air popped popcorn, what? But
Right.
you got to remember that any grain, even if it's unprocessed or relatively unprocessed, say rolled oats, is going to be very calorie dense until it's cooked in water. So anytime you're
Okay.
adding dry rolled oats as a topping or something like that, it is very calorie dense.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
Jeff Novick would say you need to add at least double the amount of the grain to water. So oats cooked in at least double the amount of water.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't understand that principle, but that is why popcorn is calorie dense. Now you're not going to ever eat a pound of it, but for how much you're eating, you chew the air out and the rest of it is dry and calorie dense.
That makes sense. We were looking at last week, I was sharing with them, I go to the Indian store here in town and I buy my rice in giant 40-pound bags and stuff. And they have what is called puff rice. And it's not like Rice Krispies, which you look at the Rice Krispie ingredients and it's like, 2 inches tall with whatever crap they put in there. Where this is an old Indian process where they heat up on a skillet, they heat sand or they heat salt, and they take the whole grain parboiled par-cooked rice where they just basically add water and kind of brown it a little bit, and then they take that moist rice and they put it in this hot sand and it puffs up like popcorn but in perfect rice shape. And so I was expressing that that is a whole food right there, but to make it more dense again, you would have to add the almond milk to it or something and let it soak up a little bit in order to get that
that's
2-to-1 ratio.
Jeff Novick even said that overnight oats are not compliant with maximum weight loss unless it's at least double the amount of water, at least. Okay. So if you're putting that much almond milk in, and actually maximum weight loss, they don't want you using plant milks at all, except for a splash in your morning, they don't want you cooking with it or adding cups of it to this, that, and the other. So
it would have to be soaked overnight in 2-to-1 ratio on the water, and then a splash of milk added if you wanted that extra little flavor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of people
that's good to know.
Don't understand that, but anyway, don't drink your calories, juices, sugar sweetened beverages, or plant milk. Don't drink your calories. And then follow these principles, eating whenever you are hungry until you are comfortably full. Don't starve yourself. Don't stuff yourself. And then avoid being sedentary is the last one. Aim for 30 minutes or more of moderate exercise every day.
That's awesome. Thank you for reminding us of that. We did go over those back in the beginning about a year ago. We started the Facebook group and the live videos. We started the Facebook group in October, and then we started actually meeting for lunch. We call it our Zoom meet luncheon. And we started out actually in restaurants, but the noise was too loud. And we had like 30 people on the group at, one of the first videos we did. And it was just so overwhelmingly loud that it didn't work at all. And so we've had a lot fewer people on the group, but I want to, really get it out there and let them know that we are available.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, if any, after we finish with all of this, if there's anybody later who has questions or whatever, I get a lot of people who ask me if I'll be their health coach. And I absolutely cannot do that because I have a full-time job, and because of my family situation, all of the prep work and everything I need to do for my own self-care is on me. My husband is has changed over from being oppositional at first to supportive, but he
Well,
doesn't
he
know
got
how to.
his wife back. The woman he married is back in front of him again, you know?
Yeah. So we definitely need to talk about the whole family thing, but he doesn't know how to cook this way. Do you know what I mean? He can support me in certain ways, but when it comes down to it, I know nobody is responsible for my health but me. And
That's true.
so, with my full-time job and what I deem as my minimum daily self-care routine, I mean, plus I'm just not really, I don't figure I have the experience or anything to be a health coach. So I was going to say, if anybody has questions later, like you could send me some questions and I could send back some answers for them. But just in case anybody's thinking I'm going to be a health coach, no, that's not happening.
Yeah,
I
that's
get,
kind of my job. You know, I've been doing this for a while, and when we took the class last year, it was reiterated over and over and over again to share this, and he even gave credit. Dr. McDougall even gave credit. This isn't his original idea. It's actually, you know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had to go through the whole food plant-based thing to prove to the king that they didn't have to eat his animals in order to be strong. And you
yeah,
know,
that's all in his
so
color picture book, which is really good.
yes, we've gone
Yeah.
through that one on the class too, to show him how simple that is, because you know, keeping it as simple as possible. And when you don't have to think, like he's very adamant about, he knows he's going to have oatmeal for breakfast every morning. It's a done deal. He doesn't have to think about it. So his day gets off to a good start because he knows how it's going to begin. And only on an occasional weekend will he do something like hash browns or something off, you know, whole grain pancakes or something like that. And I'm also adamant against the gluten. People tell me they don't have a gluten issue, but I'm here to tell you 100% of the human population has a gluten issue. And I prove it to them when I remove it from them. And it's in the blood, in the microscope, I can show them they have a problem with gluten. And as soon as we remove gluten from somebody who says they don't have a gluten problem, they immediately feel lighter. Within 4 days, they're eliminating giant poops that they've never seen in their toilet before. They are no more stress in their shoulders. Their foggy feelings goes away. And so I show them that you don't realize that you do have an issue with it until you don't do it for a while. But I love that about Dr. McDougall. Now, our go-to, if I were to say how much, what we eat on a regular basis, I would say we eat more hash browns than anything, because we can take those cold potatoes, make hash browns, some grilled onion in there with it in the skillet, always using vegetable broth or water. At first we thought that was going to be an impossible thing, but we don't even have an oil bottle in the house right now. Yeah. And so that's huge. We used to have an entire Lazy Susan full of oils, and we don't have that anymore. And my husband cooks that way as well. So
I think it's really important though to discuss people like me who, I mean, I'm not going to get rid of my husband of, 30 years.
Not at all.
But he's not going to come around. He's not.
My husband for 13 years was not going to come around. And it was January last year. He literally came up to me and pinky promised me on New Year's Day that he was going to try, because his blood sugar had gotten up to like 270 or something like that. It's crazy. And he was getting a little nervous. And this year, we made the concession that he could order whatever he wanted when we went out on a date. The advantage of that is I get dates consistently now, but I am absolutely thrilled with him in the fact that he's made this transition. We used to fight about nothing except food. And if it had to do with, a salad or kale, he said that wasn't food, stop feeding it to him. And to have him make this 180-degree turnaround now where he's making the salad, he's, using water to make hash browns in the morning. That is just phenomenal to me. And it's nothing short of an answer to prayer, because it was not going to happen. There was no way. Like I said, we didn't fight about anything except food. And we had some salads thrown. I mean, no joke, because it was that important to him. And we were having a conversation this last week when I reminded him, I says, there comes a point when you have to decide that living is more important than the food, you know, and when did eating steak become more important than living for your children and grandchildren, you know, things like that. And we're able to have those conversations now where we were not able to before it. And it was never going to happen ever, 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 never, never. And now he's taking me to Vietnamese, Thai restaurants and having pho. I mean, go figure. When did that happen?
Well,
You know,
I mean, you never know what will happen down the road, but honestly, I
lots
find
of prayer.
I find for myself that I have to accept what is. And if anything changes that's for the better, then I'll be pleasantly surprised. But, you know, just for those people who may be struggling because of their environment and the people that they live with, I'm a testament to show that you can be successful doing this, whether or not you live with somebody who's on board. And, you know, when I first started, I've discovered in the past many times when I've tried my little diets or tried to get healthy in the past, and I was dieting, that my husband wasn't willing to change his eating habits. I already knew that. So when this came along, I just didn't figure that I'd even bother him with it, really. I just, you know, I jumped on board knowing that this was probably my answer. And he wasn't very happy. I think he felt at first that we would never enjoy any occasion ever again together that involved food. I think he felt threatened that we weren't ever going to have any fun anymore because of the food issue.
Yeah.
And so
and that's another one of those things. When did fun become food? When is that the only thing versus going out and enjoying nature, taking a walk, or going to a movie, or you know, playing miniature golf or something like that? When did fun become
But to him
food?
at the moment it was real, and I had no control over him.
True.
But I would say for the first 6 months, we struggled. We really struggled because, you know, who's cooking dinner and which way are you going to make it? And I absolutely wasn't going to budge. Now, I'm a very low key, easygoing type of person, and I will usually, if I don't, you know, I usually let him do what he wants or have things his own way if it doesn't, you know, really impact me. I'm usually like, I'm fine with it either way or whatever. And I've always kind of been that way. But when it came down to this, it was so important to me that I decided that there was no way I was giving in on this ever. And so we had some arguments about it. And I didn't really understand why he was upset about me changing my diet, but what I explained is part of it. And it took a while, but the system we've worked out now that works great is we both work full time. So we share cooking and cleaning up duties. He cooks for a week, then I cook for a week. So we take turns cooking. We have an empty calendar that we print out and put on the refrigerator. And when it's his turn to cook, he fills it out. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just dinners, you know, what we're having for dinner. We just take care of breakfast and lunch on our own. He's at work, you know, he goes out with friends, whatever. But dinners, we write down on the calendar what's for dinner that night. That means the other person knows what's on the slate for dinner. Okay. If he's making something I will not eat, then I've either got to try to ask him to tweak it for me, or I'm on my own. And that's perfectly fine. So he makes a lot of things for dinner. He usually does the same rotations every time it's his turn to cook, which is fine. But he makes stuff that's easy to tweak for me. So like spaghetti, he does 2 pots of sauce. He puts his beef in his, mine he cuts up mushrooms and puts in my sauce. And I don't want to, you know, really bother him to make 2 pots of noodles too, because he likes white. And I am like, if there's any, I really don't go with, you know, stripped grains and stuff like that. I go with the whole grain as much as possible. So I'll make my own in the Instant Pot or whatever. Stuff like tacos, I always have some, you know, lentils cooked up in the refrigerator or some beans that I can use in place of meat. And then the rest of the toppings are the same, except for I just, you know, don't use the cheese or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what we have worked out. And when it's my night to cook, you know, there's a few meat things that I might make. Like I don't mind cooking up some ground beef for him. you know, to put in something. But other than that, I won't really touch any raw steaks, chicken, or anything. So he knows I'm going to make it the way I like it. And if he wants to add some, he's going to have to get up and cook that part of it himself. There are a few small exceptions, but for the most part, and usually he's too
Too
tired
tired.
or whatever to bother it
Yeah.
with it.
We
So,
kind of have that agreement in our house too, where when we went really strict, especially this before this last year for the last 13, I would cook the whole food, you know, plant-based, because I was straight up vegetables for many, many years. And that caused some other issues because I wasn't getting enough calories. When you eat
mhm.
only plants, you only can get about 400 to 800 calories in a day. And my body was in a storage mode, not getting enough. So when I started adding the starches, it was really a leap of faith for me, because it was way more calories than I was used to, way more food than I was used to. But the weight started flying off because my body was finally getting enough calories to survive, not be in storage mode anymore. And it was giving me the energy to move. So that
Right.
was huge. But so before this last year, I would cook, you know, plants, you know, and, you know, simple things like that. If my family wanted meat, they had to cook it themselves. And we had freezers full. We had fridges full. We had drawers full. We had meat everywhere, cheese everywhere. And so it was really difficult to, you know, kind of put that aside and ignore it was there. This last year, however, we don't have meat in the house. That's how far we've evolved in 13 years, going on 14. No meat is in the house. We do have some that he still threw in the freezer back January last year. It's been in the freezer since last January because he took everything out of the fridge and put it in the freezer. And if he wants meat, we have to go out on a date and he has to get it from somewhere else. It doesn't come in the house. The only meat that is even in our pantry is a couple of cans of sardines that our 23-year-old college student that's still at home will grab once in a while. And I think 2 little pouches of tuna. That is the only meat that is even in these walls. And that is huge, huge. To be able to go from this to that, and it's only by literally answers the prayers. So,
And you're probably familiar with this, but also a lot of people have a problem with the snacks left around the house.
yes,
My
those are
husband brings
difficult.
my husband brings chips, ice cream, ding dongs, you know, sweetened cereals, everything you can imagine into this house. And, you know, I have learned through practice and stuff. I just know being 100% is a lot easier than being 95%. And I absolutely don't ever eat them. You
Yeah,
just can't do that, or else you're stepping near the edge of the cliff. And I've seen way too many people fall into that hole. And then later they're like, I've fallen off the wagon and I can't get back on. Well, I'm not ever going to have that problem because I'm not stepping close to that edge. I just won't.
yeah.
So if he
It's
leaves,
difficult when we travel. We travel a lot with our filter changes for our water company and such. And we just got back from a 4-day weekend, and we had, you know, the popcorn in the car. We had chips in the car, and I got into, you know, not the popcorn. I didn't get the popcorn, but I did get into the vinegar lime chips. I mean, why would I do that to myself? You know, it's 10 grams of fat per 1 ounce serving, and that is not a 1 ounce serving bag. You know what I mean? So those are things that I can't have them near me. I have zero willpower.
I know. And a lot of people struggle with that when they live, you know, with somebody. But when my husband leaves that stuff around the house, I mean, we've got one dedicated drawer in the refrigerator where all the cheese and meat or anything, butter or anything that he brings into the house that has to be refrigerated goes. There's one shelf in the freezer. And then there's the highest shelf in the pantry because he's tall and I'm short. And then there's a little spot on top of the refrigerator. But if he leaves anything out, I scoop it up and put it away. And I don't even care that I'm the one cleaning it up. I just want to get it out of my sight. And I don't ever look at or fantasize or reminisce or whatever about any of the foods that I used to love. Burger King commercial comes on the TV, I avert my eyes. And to me, it's the exact same principle as fighting unworthy or bad thoughts, like what you think you are. And if you don't want to walk down that road, don't let those thoughts in. So I control my thoughts very carefully, and I just put it all away. So
I love Andrew from Australia that Dr. McDougall's had on his live shows before. He's known as Spud Fit, if you've ever
Yeah.
seen Spud Fit.
yeah.
And he realized that he had an addiction to food, just like we have known people that have had addictions to alcohol and drugs and things like that, that we know everybody on the planet knows is not healthy for us. But once people get into that path, it becomes an addiction. And I am there. I understand completely the addiction. So understanding and putting the mindset that I can't have that bag of chips because I'm an alcoholic. I'm a foodaholic. I can't eat that, or I'm going to inhale the entire bag. And my husband is really funny. He's sweet as can be, the sweetest man on the planet. Come here and say hi, honey. He just retired a week ago today. And so he's been home and we've been just having the best time. But he will, when I start eating like those chips yesterday, it's not just one here, one there. It's like, like I'm a woodchuck, and it's just going in the wood chipper. Come show up. He wants to show you his trim tummy. Come over here, honey. Come here, baby. Honey, you're not walking this way when I ask you to move. Come on. He's standing there making signs in the window here in the door.
I was counting numbers.
He's counting numbers of what?
Hi.
All we can see is your belly. There you go. Say hi. There he is.
Hello.
Good
How
to
you
see
doing?
Nice to meet you.
To meet you too.
So he is proof that he can change. Do you want to tell the group really quick why you
198.
changed? Oh, you were 198. He was 198. He's under 200 pounds, a little turd. Why is it that men can think about losing weight and 5 pounds flies off? Yeah, and
They don't have our
bragging,
hormones.
and he's bragging that that's after he ate his chips on the trip. So anyway, all right. So I know we've got to get. There's several things I still want to go over, and we're just having so much fun. And I feel like I've known you forever, just chatting with you this last couple of days. We were talking earlier about the your mom and the depression era that maybe has followed us into our lifestyles of not having anything, like myself growing up on bread and powdered milk, stale bread from the grocery store that my uncle brought home that they were supposed to be throwing out, and things like that. We get into a mindset that when I got married, I know that I didn't know what to do in a grocery store. It's like, oh, I can have that. Oh, I can have that. I can have that. And so we have an entire family. I have 8 brothers. Myself, I'm number 9. Skinny as rails growing up. We look like malnourished, village people. And now every single one of my brothers would not fit in a normal picture frame. I mean, they're all 3 and, high 2s, low 3s. I think I've got a brother that's over 400 pounds. For them, because we have no, we're in our 60s now and 70s and 80s, and nobody knows how to eat in my family because of the way that we grew up. And we think that we've got to get it all now, that feast or famine kind of thing. And that woodchuck thing that I do, it's like I've got to eat it or somebody else might eat it. And I'm the only one in the car that will eat vinegar and lime. My husband won't touch it. So that bag could have lasted me 3 years and nobody would have
How
cared.
about don't buy the bag?
Exactly. That's the thing, is not to buy the bag to begin with. So, and I tell people all the time that we were talking about diseases in the beginning there. And I wanted to make a comment that one of the things I use in my clinic, and people hear me say it all the time, it's going to be my famous quote. It's going to probably be on my tombstone. But I swear to you, there is not one single inherited disease. There is only inherited bad habits and recipes. And that's what we've passed on from generation to generation. I can actually look at blood without seeing the person and guess which nationality they are based on how their blood looks, because of their traditions of eating. this culture this way, this culture that way, this culture this way. And it is that blatant of these handed down, you know, bad habits and recipes that have caused these repeated, you know, diseases for different groups and bodies of people geographically or inherently. So those are things that we want to definitely kick in the butt and to educate. That's what I do all day long, is educate, educate, educate. So before we run out of time, I want to share screens again, and I want to go back and look at your food page really quick, because people are going to go, she's gorgeous. What is she eating or not eating? And I have looked at your food, girl, and you are eating well in the neighborhood. So let me go over here and let's show some of that again.
Okay.
All right, if we go over here to, this is your album on her page. We're gonna talk about this. She's a photographer, pharmacist, wife, and mother who loves to cook, read, and be outdoors. And y'all can see here, explain some of these foods across the top here. What are we looking at? What is this?
That's sweet potato cornbread.
Sweet potato cornbread. You might have to give us that recipe because that looks divine.
So I can send you the link to this album. I've made it public, so anybody can access this album on my Facebook page. And
Okay.
if you click on the picture, there's a description.
Oh, right there.
Yeah. And then in the comments, I've put the recipes. So because I can't be sending hundreds of people, I mean, like, you have no
That's
idea.
perfect.
When I post on Well Your World or anything like that, I have people messaging me like all day long out of the blue. Will you be my health coach? What do you eat every day? And I'm like, I literally don't have time to respond to all of it. And that's
hear you.
I put everything
hear
in
you.
the album.
All right, so let me just span through here because it might be easier to do it. The muffins, and this is great. This is a great way to do that. If the group could kind of do something like this too, because we post our pictures, but sometimes we need a little recipe on the side, and you can put that in the description. But that looks absolutely divine.
That was from a restaurant, so I don't have that recipe, but
okay. That looks amazing. So rice looks like a sweet potato puree. Are you doing the cauliflower cheese sauce? What's that one?
That's Jill's Game Changer cheese
Oh,
sauce.
yes. I love Jill. She has not
favorite.
posted in a long time. I don't know why, but she hasn't posted in a long time. Chocolate peanut butter and ice cream. Yeah.
Mhm.
That looks like a sin right there in a bowl, but you know, it's
I know.
not. It's something that we can eat, and having these options for us. Look at this. I mean, there is no deprivation. There is no going hungry. She's got plenty of food going on.
And a lot of it's very simple, you know, I mean, and like, I'm not posting as many food pictures anymore because I kind of repeat the stuff that I like and eat the same thing over and over again. So, you know.
Love the Brussels sprouts. Are you familiar with Esther Loveridge?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she was one of our guest speakers, and we got to meet her in California this summer on our trip. She autographed my book, and her meals, I can be scrolling down Facebook and know that that's one of her meals because she doesn't even mash, slice, or cut. She's got the whole potato.
She doesn't really make any recipes. She just eats potatoes and vegetables at home.
Like now, in their whole form. She took it literal, and she's doing the absolute whole form.
Perfectly fine for her, but I could never do that because I like variety and I like different flavors. Like she's not even putting that much spice or anything on her. She just eats them whole. And that's great. Healthy food, but like I have to have some variety. So, and
now see, if I would have seen this one, I would have thought that was Esther's. Because it's simple. She goes to a vegan restaurant every, I think Wednesday, I think it was, and she gets their vegetable stirred rice that has no oil added to it. And we had that when we were there with her. We had lunch with her, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And oh my goodness, explain that. Let's see, whole wheat, apple, raisin, cinnamon rolls. Okay.
So yeah, the filling for this came from the Forks Over Knives maple apple cinnamon roll, I think, recipe. I tweaked their recipe the dough anyway. So, and I'll just let you know, since I'm the only one in my house eating this way, my husband tried one of those cinnamon rolls and he thought it was all right. But, he'd rather have the full fat, whatever version. So he ate one. That left me with 11 cinnamon rolls.
Wow.
Normally I freeze stuff, but with this, I can't remember when it was I made this, October 18th, 2020. But anyway, I ate 2 of those cinnamon rolls a day for about a week and never gained a pound.
Wow.
And that's because there's not really any fat in them. Yes, I made a powdered sugar glaze to throw over the top. So there's some sugar in there, but there's no fat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah, I have an aunt that, bless her heart, she ate herself to death. And I'm not trying to be rude. I'm being straight up honest. And she was so obese that she had to have a medical bed in her downstairs living room in their 2-story home. Her husband had to do everything for her, had to wipe her, had to change her, had to feed her. And she was so obese, she couldn't even lift a fork to her own face. And she would lay in her bed and whine, would you make me some of your wonderful cinnamon rolls? And by darn, if you wouldn't go in the kitchen and make those cinnamon rolls and feed them to her. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. But it wouldn't have been something like, it wouldn't have been something like this, because obviously he was doing the full fat version and everything else.
And also, can I mention that I told you I used to be a complete sugar addict. And there is something about, I know some people say I can't eat any sugar or too much carby stuff or else I crave it. But like, this way of eating has seriously cured my sugar addiction.
Oh yeah.
I can have a little bit of sugar on cinnamon rolls like that. There's hardly any fat in them, but I don't crave it. It doesn't make me go off the rails or anything. Just a little here and there, or that was a special treat. And then I was like, well, I'm not making those again for 8 months,
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just, I'm fine. I just don't have the desire for the sugar anymore.
That's amazing. We do a veggie pizza all the time. We've even ordered it, but the way that I do it at home and the way I request it at a restaurant, to keep all these vegetables from sliding off, we plunk or drizzle the tomato puree with some oregano and spices in it across the top before running it through the oven, and it holds everything in place. So got just amazing photos here. I just want the group to see. She's not going without, and these are my favorite. Oh my gosh, these are so fun. They're best when they're fresh. For some reason, the rice gets a little hard if it's not, but oh my gosh, I love stuffing things in these rice wraps.
Yeah.
But look at this food. There's so much variety going on, and creativity too. Oh, what was the white part in there?
That was a Korean melon.
Okay. All right.
We have a huge ethnic food store here. It's people come from all over the world to visit it. It's called Jungle Jim's.
Nice.
Just a little tip about apple crisps. If you want to put that crispy topping or anything like that on top, normally you would mix the oats and the sugar and the flour with butter, right?
Right.
Apple juice. Use
Okay.
apple juice.
So you mix it with the apple juice. Okay.
Just enough to make it crumbly, and then you just sprinkle it on top and bake it, and it works great.
Are those the sweet potato ones?
These, yes. Sweet potatoes and flour. Yeah.
I just discovered that. I take the rolled oats, I blend them up and use them as the flour and mix it with the sweet potato, and they make the most delightful wraps.
They do. I find them time intensive though, and I don't think I'll make them again just because I didn't feel like I could make a huge, I don't know. They don't last as well in the fridge and stuff. So I probably won't make them again. They were all right. I just felt like it took a lot of time.
One of the girls, there were 2 girls, Melanie and Debbie in our group from Canada. They have mastered a recipe for burgers that we use for burgers, meatballs and meatloaf and things like that. taking oats and rice, cooked oats and rice, and you mash it with a potato masher with all your herbs and spices, and you shape it however you want, and it comes out tasting just like meat. It's you know, the flavoring is what you're looking for, but it gives you that texture. So there's no beans. I think it started with the recipe for on YouTube. You can Google, you can look on YouTube for fartless burger because there's no beans or lentils in it.
Yeah. This was
So-
Thanksgiving 2020. And I mean, I had an entirely vegan, whole food, plant-based meal. Well, except for that roll, might
There
have
you
been an
go.
exception, but yeah.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Yeah, so this is again, and there was some things that I mentioned yesterday. Let me just go over here real quick and see if I can see the questions if we haven't covered everything here. I do want to talk about this magazine. Now you are in the magazine. Was this last month?
Yeah, it was on newsstands from about Halloween to the 22nd of November, right before Thanksgiving. So it's off newsstands. You won't find it anymore.
I know. I've looked and looked and looked. I've been even asking people if they have one. We
I
have
have
to
a few
talk about the
copies, but-
point too.
Yeah, I think I have like 3 copies is all.
There was another picture of it. Is it
The
right here?
inside.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. They
So-
sent a professional photographer and a professional makeup artist to my house
They did.
for this.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. That is
So-
absolutely incredible. What an incredible privilege and opportunity to be able to have that and share with people.
Well, and just even the photographer that came out, he's been struggling with his weight and some health issues, and he was so curious about how I achieved this weight loss. And so I gave him a list of some reading materials, and hopefully, I don't know if it'll get anywhere, but it's got him thinking about it. So that was kind of cool.
Well, and it's so much easier than all the other articles that they post in here. Esther was in the magazine as well. And all the other ones, and you can always go to page 22, no joke. I've been doing this for decades. I buy this magazine and page 22 is where these weight loss articles fall. Pretty sure
Yeah.
that's what this one's going to say down here. This one's
First-
on
Mine was actually 29.
29. Interesting.
But see, this
Um,
isn't the same magazine as hers. They're sister magazines. Hers was in Women's World, and this is First for Women.
Okay. Okay.
But here, I'm sending you another picture.
Okay.
This is the picture of me and the makeup artist and the professional photographer. And the blue
Alright.
dress I'm wearing, that was the second outfit. That one didn't make it into the magazine, but
Nice. And they came all the way to your house to see that. That's awesome.
also something just I wanted to point out too, like a lot of people ask me if I have loose skin. You know, I'm not young. The younger you are, the better your skin bounces back after something like that. I'm not young. And I don't think you can lose 90 pounds without having loose skin. Yes, I have loose skin. And you can see my stomach is not flat in that picture. Short of having a tummy tuck or something, I'll never have a flat stomach. But, you know, to me, it doesn't really matter, I guess. I mean, it's not bad enough to really care about it that much. And the more toning and exercise that I do, you know, it does help. It's not ever going to
Sure.
fix it, but
Sure. Yeah, I know that, I mean, just being able to look at this and seeing the magazine, seeing everything here, you can tell I mean, this picture here, I mean, that's not the same person. You know, it can't possibly feel like the same person. Does your husband feel like he's got his wife back?
I think it's hard he doesn't compliment me as much as I think, you know, people think he would. Do you know what I'm saying? But
Uh-huh.
part of it is because he's not on board with the lifestyle. But
Gotcha.
but when people come up and say, who is that young girl with you again? And then they, you know, act like they're kidding and stuff. And what happened? You know, where'd you get this young, beautiful wife is what they ask. I can tell he's happy and pleased. He just doesn't
Oh.
verbalize it that much. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
Sure.
but yeah.
Yeah, I
One of
think,
the other things we were going to talk about was exercise.
yes, let's get back down to that plank picture there and whatever else you're doing for exercise, because
So
not everybody can pull off the plank,
missed it.
obviously. I missed it. Where'd it
Right,
go?
right in there, above the blue magazine.
There it is. The little skinny one right there.
So obviously, by the time I was able to do this, you know, I'd been doing strength training 5 days a week for a year and 4 months or so, I think. I can't
Wow.
remember if that was July that I did that, but anyway, so that it's not like I was just all of a sudden able to do that. When I started with the diet change, I was just trying to walk 1.5 miles around the neighborhood. And that's what I started with. 5 days a week, I was walking the neighborhood, and it was about 1.5 miles. Sometimes I would manage 2 miles.
Okay.
As the weight came off and I had more and more energy, I was able to walk further and further till, you know, last year I was walking 4 miles a day easily. And I really wasn't doing any strength training until a year, well, almost, I guess, 2 years in. So I started January of 2019 with the diet change, and I just walked all of 2019, and I guess it was 2020. Yeah, I guess it's 2020. So it was only a year until I started strength training. And then I made some goals and started strength training 5 days a week in January 2020. So, and I've kept up that schedule, and I do more and more as I am able, but a lot of people ask me about the exercise, and I really believe that losing the weight is what enabled me to do this kind of exercise. And as much as I
sure.
do, it was not the exercise that resulted in the weight loss. Absolutely not.
No, I agree 100%. The more weight we lose, the more energy we have, and the more ability and desire we actually have to even bend down and tie our tennis shoes, you know?
Exactly. Getting all of that weight off of my stomach and stuff allows me to do positions and stuff that I couldn't do it before. But I will say that the walking was easy, and increasing the walking slowly was easy. Adding strength training 5 days a week was not easy. So
Okay.
if you go to another picture that I sent you, the second to last one, right before the butterflies, when I started strength training, I printed out a calendar, and this came from Well Your World, not this exact one, but they were having a January challenge on the Well Your World Facebook page, where you set 3 goals and you decide how many days out of the month you're going to do those goals. And so mine are listed at the bottom. See rule number 1, rule number 2, and rule number 3.
Oh, that's excellent.
And so basically, I started this January of 2020. I printed out the January calendar and I made my 3 goals. And one of them was following maximum weight loss, because I was stuck, right? At that point, I was stuck with my weight. And I knew I needed to add strength training. That was rule number 2. And then rule number 3 was my walking, basically 60 to 7 minutes of cardio 5 days a week. And because adding the strength training, I was already walking, and I was already, well, by the time this calendar was printed out, I was following maximum weight loss. But I'd give myself a couple days on the weekend to have that tortilla, you know, at the Mexican restaurant, or maybe I would have a bowl of air popped popcorn, but only once a week. And I allowed for a couple of days here and there for that. So I would list how many days I wanted to do it, and notice that there's stickers next to each rule. When
Yes.
I accomplished it, I put a sticker on the calendar. And this sounds completely juvenile, and it is, but there is something about putting a sticker on a calendar and watching them accumulate that makes you motivated to do it. So
Endorphins.
adding the strength training was extremely difficult. This calendar is what helped me cement it as a habit.
You wanted that star. You needed that star in order to get it. You had to do it.
My routine is I get up, and first thing in the morning, before I even leave my bedroom ever, I do strength training in the morning first thing. And so like when I started, I did upper body Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I did lower body Tuesday, Thursday. And as I've gone through, I'm coming up on 2 years of strength training 5 days a week. I've altered it and increased the difficulty and how much weight or what I'm doing. I find YouTube videos. I have a book with positions and weights and all sorts of stuff, and I pick and choose. but somewhere in there, I started doing planking in 2020. And then, anyway, but yeah, when I started a plank, 45 seconds is about where I started to shake.
Sure, sure.
So
And during the 12-day program last January, they, one of the segments, well, a couple of the segments, they brought in the exercise trainer, and he's quite famous and works with a lot of very important people or familiar people. And he was suggesting that we do a plank every day. Well, right about that same time, I injured my knee. I'd lost 42 pounds and I rewarded myself with some chunky heeled boots that were sexy as sexy goes and shoes. And I pulled it off wrong and I multiply torn my meniscus in multiple directions. And so
oh goodness.
I wasn't able to do anything where I had to really sustain anything like that. And it showed. I mean, I've had such an issue. I've gained back 12 pounds of what I had lost because of having the surgery, being in, a brace for a month and then traveling for 6 weeks. And I mean, it's just been a nightmare. And so getting back and doing something like this where I have an accountability chart that's on the refrigerator for the family to see. Oh, Mom, you didn't get your 3 stickers yesterday. I could totally see this working for me. So
Yeah.
that's something I would really like to do.
In the Well Your World group, they did this January and February of that year. I did it all year long. Notice I put my weights on here while I was losing weight too.
I do. I see that. And then I noticed here, you just were able to go out and do a Google search for a blank calendar and print that out. Easy peasy. And I see how you're monitoring your weight as you're going through, and then you totaled it for the month. 25 out of 31 days, you got your rule number 1, 23 out of 31, 28 out of 31. That is phenomenal. That's a huge mindset. I appreciate that.
Anyway, so that really helped me with the exercise a lot. And I cannot say enough, I always used to wonder how people ever exercised when they didn't need to lose weight, because that was my only motivation in the past to ever exercise, was to lose weight. And I thought, why do people who are at, goal weight or thin, why do they exercise? I couldn't understand where they somehow summoned up the motivation to do that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, now I do it because it maintains my good health. And also I've lost a lot of weight and osteoporosis. I'm not carrying as much weight on my bones. I need to do something to strengthen them. And so weight training.
Weight-bearing exercises is the number one way to strengthen your bone density. People think that that's counterproductive, and it's like, no, weight-bearing exercise, even just carrying your own body mass upstairs is a weight-bearing exercise. And
we're not even through the holidays, and I'm already looking at really deeply thinking and pondering on what my goals are going to be for next year. And can I also add that, notice it says up at the top of this calendar, physical. I had another exact sheet like this that said spiritual right there.
Oh, look at you.
3 more goals at the bottom and stickers for my spiritual goals, because I don't want to be, they go hand in hand to me, and they, I don't want to be one-sided. So
yeah. Oh, I love that. And even putting, you could actually incorporate that in here if you were short of space or something, but I love how you've developed both sides of that. And this has been a very spiritual journey for me, as well as being able to recognize that I do have the ability to make this work and to follow a program for this long. And the only way that that's ever been able to be a thing is by the fact that it is such an easy program to follow, and we're not depriving ourselves. We're not shooting, pregnant urine injections into our bloodstream to try to lose weight and other weird things that we've, thought was normal over the years. We're eating these beautiful, beautiful whole foods that, like you've illustrated so perfectly here. So lastly, and I know we're way over on time here, but it is worth every second of it. I can't wait to share this with the world. I have got to talk to you about, where'd it go? Your butterflies. Tell me.
So I used to raise monarch butterflies with my dad growing up. we would, you know, go up the canyon and find monarch butterflies on milkweed, and then we would just bring them home. My dad built some cages and we would raise them, and then once the butterfly hatched out, we would release them. And a couple of years ago, I was at the park and found some monarch butterfly caterpillars. It was actually in that little space where I had graduated from pharmacy school but hadn't found a job yet. And I brought them home and raised them and just loved it so much. And monarch butterflies are in trouble. Climate change and people mowing down milkweed and pesticides are really taking a toll on their numbers. And we just, you know, might get to the point where there aren't any monarch butterflies in North America anymore. Especially, this is the only place in the world where monarch butterflies migrate. They migrate from North America down to Mexico. Anyway, so I've been raising monarch butterflies the last few years. In 2019, I decided to raise as many as I could, and I had planted a whole butterfly garden in my yard with lots of milkweed, hundreds and hundreds of plants of milkweed and nectar plants to draw in the butterflies. There's the video right there.
There it is. And it's only 3 minutes and 16 seconds. You explain it very well there. Should we just play it since it's 3 minutes?
Or just play a clip, just a little bit. You don't have to play the whole thing.
Okay, I have some butterflies to release today, so I'm going to show you how to tag a monarch. And the reason why you tag a monarch, the fall generation of monarchs have to live for 9 months. So what they do is fly down to Mexico, and they can't reproduce right away. They spend the winter in the trees in Mexico, and then in the spring, then they fly out of the trees and mate and fly north so that we get monarchs next year. This is the fall generation, so I'm going to tag them so that Monarch Watch can kind of track where they've been and where they're going if any of them are recovered. So, and also take a shot at all these. I'm going to open up the cage a little bit.
How fun is that?
There's
Come see her
some-
butterflies in.
Gee, I had 22 hatch out today, or supposed to hatch out today. Some of them are in the house still. So this is probably about 19, I think.
That's probably
but
enough.
They're about ready to go. So I'm going to show you how to tag
So
them.
are they good
So what
pollinators
you
as
wanna do is
well?
write the data
Oh,
down
yeah,
before you
definitely.
grab the butterfly.
But I also want you to notice, this is definitely before your weight loss journey.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Mhm.
as we get over here, that is not you. That is a totally, that's some relative or something. She looks kind of like you, but you know, just fantastic. Tell us more about that.
I am much more comfortable in my skin now, obviously, but I think I'm happier now. And it's not just about the way I look. It really isn't. It's that I feel more calm. I feel more peaceful. I feel more purposeful. And a lot of the things that I have always wanted to accomplish in my life, I feel like I can tackle now. And a lot of times I'm just like anybody else. I feel like I'm plodding along, but I call it purposeful plodding on those mornings when I get up and don't want to do my workout or my scripture study. And I remember that every day matters. And if I skip it, then I'm going to feel like I hurried through my day and didn't accomplish anything. But why not take the time, even if I'm in a hurry, to accomplish something now? And that's kind of my thought about all of it. And I think that's why I'm a lot more happy now than before.
Yeah, my husband says that when he met me, one of the things that struck him was that I was classy. I also weighed 124 pounds. And that was after having 5 children. And we're our second marriage. We've been married 29, going on 30 years this coming year. And he called me classy. Well, I have noticed over the years that the heavier I am, the less classy I am. And, you know, I'm not as feminine. I sit differently. I carry myself differently. I speak louder. I don't know why, but it seems like the more weight that I lose, the more I am regaining who I was, who I used to be. It's kind of like I'm overcompensating and trying to make up for the fact that, you know, hey, if I can be funny as heck, you know, talking, they won't notice how fat I am. You know what I mean? I don't know what the subconscious theory is, but I do know that teaching nutrition the way I do, a big eye opener for me was when I was the guest speaker on a global podcast, and I watched the playback. It was probably a year and a half later that I watched the playback. I was mortified. It's like I took up the full screen. I am this huge blue blimp sitting in this chair on this stage while they're interviewing me. And I'm talking about health and nutrition and healthy blood. You know, I had healthy blood, but I didn't have the healthy body. And my confidence in being able to verbally teach lectures to hundreds and thousands of people at the time, and, you know, different groups, diminished because I felt so bad in my skin. You know what I mean? It's like, who wants to learn how to eat healthy from the fat chick talking at the microphone? She's whiter than the podium. I mean, come on. So
Yeah, that's kind of Chef AJ's story as well, I know.
yes, yes. Yeah, she's phenomenal. Does not look like the same person. Have you seen her blowing her nose whistles on the late night show?
Yep,
And you're seeing her old pants and, you know, her skirts over her head, you know, for the world to see. And it's like, this is not the same person. And you can see the difference between being funny and versus her being classy. There's a huge shift there. And so I was telling my husband, we were at a bed and breakfast this weekend, and I says, I'm getting your classy wife back. This is my year. I've already lost over 40 pounds. I am excited to get this next 60 pounds off or more and see where that takes me as far as life and adventure and, you know, exercising. And we're moving into a property to do some gardening. I mean, that's going to be so much fun and so much exercise, but I want to have a routine when I move into the house. From day one, it has to be a routine. Boxes around me or whatever. I'm going to be able to go for a walk in this beautiful neighborhood. I'm going to come back, do whatever strength training I need to do, get in the shower, start my day. And it has to happen that way because it is never in my vocabulary to be able to stop and do those things later in the day because, you know, as soon as it's 9 o'clock in the morning, my phone starts blowing up, whether it's text messages or instant messages or phone calls or clients or, you know, appointments or Zoom conferences or consultations that I do or going into the clinic and therapy sessions that I give. And I mean, there's so much going on. The exercise at the end of the day is never going to happen unless it's maybe a walk before sunset. So I've got to get that routine. I want to get me a calendar. I want to do my daily scripture enhancement and personal spiritual time for myself. And that your method of the stickers in the calendar is a fabulous way to get that accomplished. So
it was one of the only ways I could make myself do it. But yeah, I wanted to get just, I guess, end with the butterflies, that picture of the butterflies.
Yes, please.
In 2019, you know, after I had planted that butterfly garden, I decided to try to help along as many individual butterflies as I possibly could. And so every single egg, every single caterpillar that I found in my garden, I took it in, I raised them in little net cages out on my deck for the summer. And I had hundreds at one time, okay? And so most days, first thing in the morning, I was out collecting milkweed, cleaning cages, putting new milkweed in, moving chrysalises into a separate cage, releasing butterflies on all of this all summer long. And so the summer of 2019, I raised 1,283 butterflies, just myself. You have no idea how much work that was, but butterflies to me have come to represent a miracle, the miracle that's inside all of us. Sometimes we think, I'm not doing anything special, or I am not anything special. I can't seem to accomplish what I want to or be what I want to be. But I always think of it as a caterpillar. They really can't do much. All they can do is crawl around and eat and poop. I mean, that's really all they do. But there is something growing inside them that's a miracle. And all they have to do today is what they can do today, which is eat and eat and eat. And inside, that enables them to have this transformative process start to develop, and there's nothing you can do to rush that process. You know, it takes 2 to 3 weeks for the caterpillar to become big enough to change into a chrysalis, and then it takes about 14 days for them to transform inside that chrysalis and to hatch out into that miracle. And I always think we all have that inside us, and we think, I'm not getting anywhere, I'm not accomplishing anything. But what you have to do is what you can do today. And so the mantra of give yourself time just means so much to me, because we are so impatient with ourselves. We think, I have to lose weight today. Why can't I, do this right now? But it takes time. And all we can do is what we can do today. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road, you'll look back and be able to see where you came from and what you've accomplished. But you can't do that if you are frustrated that you're not, changing overnight, because there's just nothing you can do to rush the process. So that's why
Absolutely.
butterflies mean so much to me.
That is wonderful. And I'm hoping that I can learn more about that from you, because I want to be able to incorporate and bring butterflies into my yard. I want to have bees. I've got a beekeeper that's going to put some hives out there for us to help pollinate the gardening that we're going to grow and things. I think the greenhouse would be a great place to do butterflies and help them to develop like this, because they need a little bit of a warmer environment, correct?
They do, but a lot of people keep them in some sort of enclosure and then release them as soon as they're butterflies. You don't want to keep captive adult butterflies in there for sure, though. Because they need to be free to reproduce and fly where they go. But where you live, you're actually in a really strategic spot, because the butterflies that come up in the spring from Mexico, where they spent the winter, need milkweed sources right there in Texas, because the first ones that come out of Mexico and lay eggs, the entire summer's population is dependent on those. So it's really important where you live to plant milkweed and make sure that they're pesticide free, so that they can get their population going.
Well, we will definitely be planting some milkweed, I promise you.
I can give you some too if you want.
That would be great. Please, please, please. So very excited for today. I mean, we're going on almost 2 hours, and we could probably go another 2 hours. We could go another 2 hours, I am sure. I think the last question I have for you that the group is going to ask is, because you work a full-time job, and so many of our clients and friends on the group that do, tell us just briefly what your daily schedule looks like. What time do you wake up to do this? And what time do you go to bed to get enough rest to be able to do this again tomorrow? What does that look like for you?
Well, I need a lot of rest. I've never been like an early bird, and I am extremely fortunate that I have a flexible job that allows me to set my own schedule. And if I don't want to go anywhere for the day, I don't have to. I'm working off of electronic health records, doing medication chart reviews for nursing home residents right now, trying to identify problems with their medication regimens. And, this is one thing that really reinforces what a positive lifestyle can do for you. Most of these residents, they're being fed trash in these nursing homes, and it's keeping them sick. And there is nothing I personally can do to change that. That's not my job. My job is to identify ways that their medication regimen can be improved. And, I make recommendations to the doctors for that. But besides that, just the fact that I can work from home. So I generally sleep until I want to get up. And that usually looks at 8 o'clock, I usually get up. I'm not a morning person. Then I exercise. So I spend anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour on strength training. Sometimes if I do an hour, it's not a whole hour. It's just that it's so strenuous, I have to take breaks in between. So but then I come down and I make my breakfast, and then I work from home, and I work until in the summer, I work till, well, it depends on how hot it is outside here in Ohio, but 4 o'clock is usually when I like to go for a walk, my 4-mile walk. And by then I'm sick and tired of looking at electronic health records and need a break. So sometimes I work with my laptop on my lap at home to finish reports and whatever while we're watching Jeopardy or whatever, but dinner's at 6. Usually my husband comes home, we have dinner at 6, and we usually, you know, sometimes if it's really hot in the summer, our walks will be at 8. So I just rotate what time my walks are. Right now, if I chance to get a warm enough day, I'm walking at 2. That's the warmest part of the day. But I get chilled if I walk outside and it's any lower than about 45. So I have a treadmill in the basement and I do that for my walks as well. So I'm really fortunate that I can kind of set my own schedule. So, I mean, for somebody that has to actually get up and be somewhere, I would get up an hour earlier and do strength training at home and do the gym after work is what I would do. You know, I go to bed at about 11. So I guess I get 8 or 9 hours of sleep a lot of nights. So that's just what works for me. I just know that I can always make up time later with work if I have to in the evenings, or, you know, do some reports on a Saturday or whatever to catch up. But like, my self-care is so important to me that I just don't sacrifice it. And, you know, I mean, there are days where my husband needs me for something and we need to be somewhere for some event or whatever. And sometimes I won't get my walk in on those days, but I make up for it on another day or on the weekend.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of my schedule.
That's
Like I
awesome.
said, it's a lot more flexible than what some people have though. So
Sure. And based on a circadian rhythm, I have learned in my studies over the years and in the schools that I was taught that your body does most of its healing. Well, it does all of its healing while you're sleeping. And the most important hours are between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. Your brain does not even start doing its healing until about 2 a.m. on that circadian rhythm cycle. So you need that, you know, 5-hour window to be able to be asleep. And that would mean I'd have to be going to bed about 9:30 to unwind, settle down, you know, turn off the brain and go to sleep. I actually do transcendental meditation just to go to sleep at night, just so that I can shut off the brain because it's just going nonstop with ideas. And so that's very, very, very key. And then the other thing is simple exercising, fitting in. If we don't have an hour, we have shared on our group before that groove dancing, where on YouTube you can go and find free videos of, you know, these little 5 and 7 minute interval training where you go fast, you go slow, you go fast, you go slow, whether it's dancing or weight training or walking in place, you know. That's
actually what I do with my weight training is I find short YouTube videos that are like a 10-minute ab workout, you know, a 10-minute upper arm workout or whatever. And then I string them together for as much time as I feel like I have for the day. I do have a set minimum that I feel like is required, but you know, if I have a little more time or feel like doing more, then I do, or I'll add, let's see how many push-ups I can do today, because, you know, still working on that, trying to figure out if I am strong enough, even though I can do a plank, you know, to do men's style push-ups are extremely difficult for me still. So, but yeah, I just string together those 10-minute videos of whatever works.
Yeah, we've found that that's been very effective for a lot of us in the group, especially just starting out and with winter months and things like that. We had Joy on as our guest speaker. She was our first actual guest speaker interview, and she's lost 150 pounds and kept it off for over 4 years now. And that girl walks 15 to 20 miles a day. I mean, she is up at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning walking.
There's not many people that have that much time in their schedule, though. A lot of us have to just manage with what we have, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit much for some people. I know one of the girls, she tried it and she injured herself. So starting at your own pace and working up, you don't have to jump to, you know, a full hour right out the bat. As long as you start something and get that sticker for trying, you know, and then doing something,
and for me,
making it happen.
For me, it's a lot of it's about trying. Like there's a lot of YouTube videos and I'm like, ooh, I want to be able to do that. And then you try it and you're like, I can't physically do that.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about trying it. And then the more you try it, you know, a couple months down the road, you're like, hey, I can do this now and I couldn't before. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah, I keep
trying.
seeing that video where the girl so effortlessly almost cartwheels onto her hands and has her feet up against the wall. And it's like, oh, I want to do that. And I can't even get my feet up off the ground. And I'm afraid if I did, I'd have to do it so violently, I'd put a hole in the wall. So
Yeah.
we have to know our limitations.
Definitely. Yeah, it's all about progress.
Yes. Well, I have deeply, deeply appreciated your gift of time this morning. We are literally coming on 2 hours of well valued information from you. And I look forward to getting to know you more, meeting you in person, and developing a friendship that will be forever. So eternal. I like that. So, all right.
Thank you
thank you so much. And I'm sure as soon as I post this during tomorrow's luncheon, that there's going to be several more questions that pop up. So watch it on the group page there for me at the Starch Lady, Facebook /groups/the Starch Lady. And I'm the blood lady, the urine lady, your poop lady. I mean, I'm all those people.com. So, but definitely look forward to hearing more of your comments. Thank you for putting that album together with your food that actually has the recipes next to it. That's crazy valuable right there. So thank you.
I will send you the links for McDougall and for that food album. That way you can just share the link with whoever's interested.
Yes, and get me started on butterflies, girl. I want to help here in Texas, and we've got 4 acres to do it on. So I want to help any way that I can. So
okay,
all right.
sounds good.
Well, thank you so much. Bless you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.